Now, in the book, it does talk about the ayahuasca, the shroom thing, the ceremony or whatever. It does talk about that, and she said like she noticed he was different after it, but it. I wonder, was he different, or was he waking up to that Allison was not the right person for him? Because in the book, it just basically talked about how they were in a loving relationship, and before he had unalived himself, they went to Laguna Beach and celebrated their anniversary. Everything was fine. So when you think about it, okay, everything's so picture perfect, and everything's going so well. Why was this man so down? When he mentioned about he wasn't able to talk to Allison, she was hard to talk to. I was like, ding, 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 ding. That's it right there. Allison was hard to talk to. In the book, she said there's no accountability on her. The only thing that she says, which was like a backhanded compliment for herself, was, oh, I think the reason why Steven was able to unalive himself was because he knew I was strong. He knew that I would be here to take care of the kids. He knew I was strong. And she was like, maybe if I wasn't so strong, he wouldn't have wanted to, y'all. Maybe if I wasn't so strong, maybe he would still be here because he would know that I wasn't strong enough to take care of the kids and the family. I'm gonna let y'all ponder on that for a minute. Again, that was one of the reasons she said that, oh, well, he probably felt that I was strong enough so I could do it without. Really, lady? Really? Really? That's what you thought? Oh, he knew I was strong, and maybe if I wasn't so strong, he wouldn't have. Huh? That makes no sense at all. None. And this is what she talks about in her book. Even from her childhood, a couple of things. In her book, she protects herself, but she also protects her first baby daddy. And I'm going to tell you why. Because she does mention that her first baby daddy was an addict. The Wesley, her oldest daughter, she has her own dad, and that's who she was talking about in the book, right? Before I get to him, I want to talk about her. So she mentions that she was on her own, like at an early age. She would fly to New York to do her dance meets and competitions, and she would fly back home to Salt Lake City. Sometimes she would even miss class. She was just really on it. She knew she wanted to do dance. She knew that she wanted to be a star. She wanted to be big and doing dancing and stuff like that, right? So she talks about how she overcame obstacles of having to go to school and back and forth and all this stuff. So she talks about how she finally goes to So You Can Think You Can Dance, and she went on tours, and she talks about this guy that she was dating who happened to be older. That's her first baby daddy who happened to be older, right? And she talks about she was on this red carpet and someone asked her, "Oh, who are you dating?" She said, "Oh, I'm dating JT." She said his initials and not the name of the actual guy, right? And so the press, they ran with it because they thought she meant Justin Timberlake, and it wasn't Justin Timberlake who she was dating. So in the next chapter, when she's talking about the guy JT, she was like, "Oh, for purposes of this conversation, I will call him Justin." Her baby daddy name ain't Justin, but she references him as Justin in there to try to protect his identity. Now, like I said, she does say that he was an addict and all that stuff. She does mention that. But the fact that she's protecting his name lets you know everything. But let me rewind for a minute, because she talks about when she was rebellious and she was working and going to school and stuff like that. Something happened to her when she was 17 years old. and she didn't want to put it in the book of what happened. She didn't even allude to what happened. She basically just said, I felt like because I left the, and I'm paraphrasing, I felt like because I left the church and maybe I was so rebellious, that's why this thing happened to me when I was 17. But she didn't tell us what it is. Now, I can only allude to it being some kind of assault, but the reason why I wanted to bring that up was because you were okay with telling the world that Stephen was assaulted by a trusted male figure. You were okay with that, but you couldn't go in details about yourself. Every story about her was about how she worked so hard and she overcame whatever, and she was able to be successful as a dancer. Everything was so self-loathing. Nothing was about any kind of struggle she really had to deal with. It was more like, oh, I was young, I was working, I was doing this. We toured and I didn't make a lot of money and those kind of things, but it wasn't anything like a real struggle. Like I dealt with depression, I dealt with this, I dealt with that. Like it was nothing. Her parents were divorced. If you want to say that's a struggle, okay. But everything she has done has been perfect. She had her first baby daddy was a crackhead. He got over his crackheadism and she moved on, broke up with him. She moved to LA with her and her daughter by herself. They was able to get like a little apartment. She had to get a nanny, of course, too, as well, to take care of her daughter. She was working. Then she meets Steven. Everything is going so well. They're working together. They have all these projects coming up, and then boom, he unalived himself. And that's when everything came crashing down. Now, in this book, the reason why I said she ruined his legacy is because she literally said, because of him, they lost out on so many deals. They had HGTV deals, Disney. They had clothing apparel line. They had so many projects where it was a breach of contract because he unalived himself. And so it put them in a lot of debt. She also talked about how they had two separate accounts. They had his money and her money, and then whatever bills, how they split it, that's how they work. But they didn't have joint accounts. And so she talked about how it was a struggle for her to get at, even though they were married, it was a struggle for her having to, or inconvenient. She had to put in all this paperwork to try to get his accounts transferred to hers or get access to his accounts. She talked about how they bought a home for each one of their kids. One in Salt Lake City for her oldest daughter, and then two homes in Southern California near Palm Springs, I believe, right? And she said Steven wasn't really interested in trying to fix up because those two were like fixer-uppers, right? He wasn't interested in fixing up those homes. He was kind of like nonchalant, and she was taking advantage of it. And she was not taking advantage, but she was investing in it, trying to fix it. And he wasn't really interested. And she was like, oh, baby, that was the first sign that something was wrong. And then I'm kind of thinking like, well, maybe you were pressuring this man to do things and he didn't want to. Maybe he didn't want to wake up every morning and do some dance on TikTok or Instagram or whatnot. Maybe he didn't want to do that. Maybe he just wanted a wife. Because again, she talks about how they lost out on a whole bunch of deals, and it upset her because she was all like, they were really working towards a goal and to be self-efficient, but now they couldn't because he unalived himself, and she feels she's mad or angry that he's not here. Which I know being mad and angry that somebody's not there, it's a part of the grieving. But for you to write that down and put that in the book, you got some issues. You got some issues. Me, you said they're playing with the notifications. I know they are. Trust me. I believe you. So she goes into Steven also had like a lot of debt. She had to pay all that off. The taxes, there was a tax bill that was very high. She had to pay that off. There were so many things. She had to let go of two of their offices in LA. She had to cut staff. And it was so much about how she was put in so much of a financial bind. And she was all like, maybe if he knew how much of a financial bind I would be in, maybe he wouldn't have unalived himself. Lady, when somebody is at the point of their breaking, they're at their wits end and they just want to end it all. They're not thinking about, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it because it's going to leave her in a financial bind. I think more or less he would have had some kind of, like, oh man, I don't want to leave my family. I love my family more than, oh, they're going to be in financial debt if I do. Like that was her thought process. Her thought process was literally about all the debt, all the deals that they lost in on, all the companies that didn't want to work with her no more because they wanted her and Steven, her and Twitch. And they just didn't want her. And I was kind of thinking this too. Maybe they just didn't want you and they wanted Twitch. That's what I was kind of thinking, y'all. I was all like, maybe they wanted Twitch. Maybe they didn't want you. And he probably had to put you in some of his projects that he had going on to try to help you out. But I believe maybe they just wanted Twitch and they didn't want you. Because even if he unalived himself, I can't imagine them being like, nah, we don't want you. Goodbye. That's pretty heartless. Maybe it was just that they didn't want you because she believes that she made more money than him. That's what she told Manny, his friend. She made more money than him and all this other stuff. She also talks about in the book how she didn't get any residuals from Steven because he didn't. A lot of his projects were reality show based, and if you know reality TV, you don't really get residuals from that. It's more acting and TV. So she doesn't get any residuals. So all those people thinking that she got all that money, she quote unquote didn't get a whole bunch of money. She doesn't get paid like that from his estate. So, or at least that's what she claims. It didn't really talk about the family that much in the book. His family, which kind of shocked me. It didn't talk about how much she loved them, and it was none of that, except for the NDA part, which we already talked about, so we don't need to revisit that. So I wanted to move on to the whole discovery of what she found. So as you guys know, it's been headlined about the cornucopia of drugs and all this other stuff that she found. Again, he had none of that in his system. You knew that he did smoke marijuana. So why was that even a thing or a discussion to even bring up? You literally did not have to bring that up at all. And for what? To make it seem like you had to deal with somebody that was like such an and I didn't know. I believe that you know a lot more. And like the brother said, you weren't listening to him. He couldn't talk to you. He couldn't have a conversation. And this is probably what led to his demise because he was probably just so upset that the person that's supposed to be closest to him and supposed to be his partner does not listen. It speaks volumes. I wonder what the real story is. Not this, oh, we were so in love and all that. No. There had to be more than that. One of the reasons why she went through the journal is because she said she started listening to the internet rumors. And she put this in her book, you guys. She said, and I'm going to paraphrase, she was trying to figure out why he unalived himself, right? So what she did was look through his journals to see if he was cheating with a woman or a man, because there had been rumors out there that he was possibly gay. This is what I got to say to that. You should know your husband. You should know him to know whether or not he's gay or not. You listening to the internet and trying to find out if he was cheating on you, and you specifically put it in the book with a woman or a man. You could have just put, I don't know if Steven had another partner or if he was cheating on me and he felt guilty. She specifically said a woman or a man, further embarrassing him. And it's not because he possibly was cheating on her with a man. It's the point that she put that in the book and she knew that would be salacious. You're questioning your own husband on his sexuality because you listen to rumors on the internet. And she said she was trying to figure out, because of the rumors, there had been rumors that he was gay. So she wanted to see if that was what was in the book. Like, I almost want to think that she works with the National Enquirer. So we know about how the male figure in his life assaulted him. We know about that, right? But she said once she discovered that and she talked to a friend and confirmed it, she also wondered, was that why he unalived himself? Because maybe he would have did that to his son. Y'all heard me correctly. Maybe he unalived himself because thoughts of him probably doing it to his son. And so maybe that's why he did it. So you thought that Steven, after you found that out, you thought Steven, like, oh my God, he probably was going to do this to his son. So that's why that was a thought that went through your head, literally. Not that my husband would never do that. My husband would never, like, that wasn't your first thought to say, like, I know that ain't Steven. Steven would never do that. He don't even play like that. I've never seen anything. And like, why would you put that in your book? I don't know if I'm just crazy or not, but that's not something you put in your book about your late husband who you love and cherish. And because, mind you, she's trying to pass this off as that she's writing this book to help everyone whoever struggled with someone who passed away, or unalived themselves, and how to get through it. She's given like a holistic approach to it. But you thought that he possibly unalived himself because he could have did the same thing to his son. That is wild. That is wild. And again, with these journal entries, we didn't need to know. We didn't need to know. If she wanted to write a book, the book should have been about her. But the book was mostly about Steven and how she didn't see certain signs, and she just was. If you didn't know your husband, that was probably on you. And now that I listened to the book, I was all like, oh, She literally was trying to condition it to where she was living with somebody she didn't know. And so she's basically saying, like, if there were some clues that I had seen, maybe I would have been able to stop him. Again, making herself the hero in the situation. Never the villain, but the hero. She even blames him. She blamed him for not being here and basically being the one to not be there for the kids and leave her in debt. But also, there was a situation she talks about in the book where they were her and her son were walking down the street, and the son was called. They were calling them the N word, right? And she had to explain to her son, like, oh, what the N word was and all that stuff, right? I'm paraphrasing, but she felt angry at Steven because Steven should have been there to teach her black son about the N word and what. Listen. That's not Steven's responsibility because there's somebody racist that started calling you and your son the N word. That's not Steven's job. Even if Steven was alive, that would not have been his job. Why is the responsibility on the person being called the derogatory terms than the actual racist person? And you see a lot of that going on in this country right now. The responsibility is on the person that is being antagonized and not the person doing it. Again, her book was everything about how Steven left him, and sometimes she looks out in the sky and she'll start crying and all like, how can you leave us? How did you do this? Nothing was no responsibility on her. And then the last few chapters are about how she's trying to get a routine and get back in the swing of things and their new life and all this other stuff. It doesn't mention any of her new relationships or anything like that. Again, nothing was put in a way where it was bad about her or her responsibility. It was all about how everybody else did everything horrible and she still overcame adversities and all this other stuff. Like I said, nothing about that incident from 2018 when she was drunk in the airport and got arrested. Nothing about that. Nothing about her doing pills, nothing about her alcoholism, nothing. Nothing was mentioned about that. But you write this book for everyone to help everyone, right? But you didn't think about helping his family heal. That is crazy to me. Out of all the people you should have helped heal, first of all, your kids and then his family. Help them heal. Eh, yeah. I listened to it just because I was curious about some of the stuff that I was hearing about the book, and like once I heard about it, I was all like, "Oh yeah, she trash." I don't know what other way to put it, y'all. She trash. So everything that you hear negative about Allison, it's true. It's true. I heard it for myself. All the rumors that everybody been saying about the book, it's true. It's not made up. Again, like I said, I didn't purchase the book. I have Spotify and I was able to listen to it on audio. So if you're curious, listen to it on audio. But yeah, I wouldn't support the book any other way. This was definitely just for research purposes. Other than that, I wouldn't have cared because and again, the money going to the charity or whatnot, still thinking that in actuality, even with the nonprofit, you're going to reap the benefits. I don't think this was out the goodness of your heart. I ain't taking that. Nope. Nope, nope, nope. All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and end the show right here, but I want to say thank you guys for being here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. And for the replay crew, let me know what you think about all of this. Like I said, I'll probably have to split up this video because of the first part with CBS. I don't think CBS likes you playing their videos. So I will go ahead and take that part out and leave up part 2 about the book. I appreciate y'all for being here, but we out.